friends that are kind of like they don't really understand. They haven't got that much money, but I'm trying to get them into crypto. Like the last thing I'm going to be able to explain to them is liquidation options. They don't even understand what Bitcoin is, right? But like they're starting, they're putting their foot in the water. They have some hex. It's not staked because they're just like, oh no, 15 years or whatever, right? And or the amount's too little to comprehend the stake or whatever. So for people like that, it's like, hey, go buy this thing. It's essentially, going to buy you an average of the best deals. Let's assume they get good deals. It's like, well, it's basically in every, apart from the executor and the bidding on the thing, it's like maxi. So you're just having an average of all the stuff, and then you're going to be able to have a proportional share of it at the end. If you're a guy with less than $1,000, go over there and do some of that. Like, why not? You know what I mean? So I'll just probably tell all my friends to do that.
Think about it though, dude. Like if you got involved in maxi at the very end of the 15 years, the yield that you're going to get is hex and hedron. Still a great deal. But with poly at the end of 15 years, you're going to get hex, hedron, and Icosa. You get more assets. You get more stuff. That's why it's more exciting. That's why it's more beneficial. I think that's why they're excited about even having the options to do it in the first place.
How'd you get Icosa from?
Because there any leftover hedron that they have that doesn't win any of those HSIs, they're going to put it into the hedron staking pool and start earning Icosa for 15 years.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Imagine what happens to the stakers when they end that stake.
So, this poly thing is only for this big liquidation event, correct?
Yeah, it only goes for 14 days. Where they're going to participate with it, and if the executors are not as successful as the founders like, then what Dipcatcher told me is that he can extend that 14-day period out a little bit further if he wants to, so that way they can get more HSIs into their pool to be able to have that value if they would like. But eventually it will come to a close, and then they're no longer involved with it, where the rest of us can just continue to go on like we were.
So we have to assume then as well that because it's only because I thought this went on forever. Okay, so because it's only 14 days, we'd have to assume that most of these HSIs are going to be bid on in the first 14 days. Because if anything, they would just start the bidding because they're going to be liquidated in the first 14 days. I mean, because if anything, they would start the bidding because they know they've only got a 14-day window. So we have to assume that all those big ones are going to go in the first 14 days. That's interesting.
Yep.
So now, because up until now, people have been like, "Are they all going to go? How long are they going to take? Will they all be bid on?" So
yeah, and we don't have to. Yeah, like if anyone was ever like, "I'm not going to be participating in the auction. I'm not going to burn my hedron for anything," then somebody's gonna, in a big way. Like there is going to be hedron that's getting burned. There are going to be HSIs that are being purchased. The cycle is going to continue. There's even protocols that are making sure that it's going to happen in the form of this poly thing. So I mean, yeah, like whether you like it or not, the process is going to continue. It's gonna move forward at least for those 14 days. Yeah, maybe 21 days. Who knows?
Yeah.
Do the losing bidder get their hedron back? I can't remember if that's what that is.
Okay, so when you bid and somebody overbids you, the person that overbids you has to pay a higher hedron amount to cover the gas costs to be able to mint your tokens back into your wallet. So you don't have to pay the cost for getting your tokens back into your wallet. You only pay the initial one gas cost to participate, and that's it. If you want to overbid them again, then you'll pay gas cost again. And if somebody comes in and overbids you, they'll pay the charge for the gas cost to give you your tokens back to your wallet.
Okay, so the overbidder pays for the gas fee for the losing bidder to get his hedron back.
That's correct. So exciting. So many cool things happening. Minus Zen. Fuck Zen. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I still haven't done any of that Zen stuff.
Don't do it. Jack Zen is a piece of shit. Oh,
since I was explained quite well.
hey, Nomad, do you remember when I was telling you about a couple of us sacrificing into fiat? And you were all like, I was on vacation. I missed it.
Yeah, well, you want to sell me some sacrifice, do you?
No, dude. Fucking, they're going to launch it on Ethereum in maybe like a month and a half if Pulse Chain doesn't get launched. If there is no updates, there is no nothing, then they're going to launch it on Ethereum. But previous to that, they have another protocol called Famous that they're going to open up a sacrifice for. And anyone who sacrifices for Famous is going to get an allocation of fiat. So it's like another chance. You get another shot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yep, and they're not going to do another sacrifice for the fiat, the Ethereum fiat. It's anyone who had already previously sacrificed, and anyone who gets an allocation by sacrificing into the Famous is going to get the same allocation and maybe even bonus allocation to the fiat side when they launch that. They just want people to get liquidity now.
So wait, say that second part again.
They just want people to get liquidity
No,
now.
no, like the whole second part. So you said they're not going to do another allocation.
They're not going to do another sacrifice. Yeah, they're not going to do another sacrifice for fiat.
Oh yeah.
They're going to have a.
Yeah.
I forget what they call it. They have an early bird sale or some shit. I don't even know what they call it, but a shotgun sacrifice for this Famous thing. And then you'll get allocation of the fiat for those who had missed, because there's so many people that are coming in and they're like, oh, because it was only open for like 14 days by the time they got to their $4 million.
And it'll probably be a much worse rate than you guys got, but it's if you're gonna get famous anyway, well, it's just some cream on top anyway. You get something.
Right.
I need to go on vacation more. Like every time I go on vacation, loads of stuff happens. It's like I need to just go on vacation, and then when cool stuff happens, you just message me, and then loads of cool stuff will happen. So yeah.
The next time you go on vacation, I'll be like, Pulse Chain just launched, sucker.
I know. I just need to go on vacation, like every day, come back and be like, hey guys, I'm going back on vacation, and then so Pulse Chain launches then, and then you go Pulse Chain.
That would be funny.
Mid-May
it would be even worse if I lied. Yeah, right. It'd be even more funny if I lied about it and be like, oh, Pulse Chain launched, you end your vacation, come back, and you're like, we didn't launch, you son of a bitch.
Did someone just say vacay and pray?
Yeah, he did.
No, mid-May and pray.
Oh, mid-May.
But I mean,
mid-May and pray. 2028.
2028. Oh, that's funny.
I like vacay and pray though. Like you're on vacation, waking up every day. Like I hope I'm currently missing the Pulse Chain launch, because then at least it's launched.
Vacation wrecked.
You're probably not going to get too far into the ratio trading type of business anyway, would you, Nomad? Do you even have any?
I'm gonna be knee deep in ratio trading with allegedly bots.
Yeah, allegedly. That's not necessarily you doing it though.
Yep. Just node. And then enter, and then it runs, and then go to sleep and wake up and hope for the best.
Yeah, go to vacation and come back 3 days later.
I'm gonna call the file vacation, so it's just to run it. You just do node vacation.js, enter, and then the bot runs.
Any thoughts on maybe potentially the SA putting itself in a position and liquidity to be able to gain the other side of the asset so that they can specifically go make HSIs instead of having to participate in the auction to get them? It just puts itself in a position to go make HSIs and put it into the buyback function and then not stake its Icosa, so it has liquidity on that side. So that way it can provide healthy liquidity for the asset even further and support prices where it needs to.
So what would it do? So like provide a pair on Pulse chain, you mean?
On any chain, whatever chain that we're on. It would just be feeding the monster that we call the liquidations auctions. So it would have a whole bunch of the Hedron asset, let's say. It puts in a liquidity where prices go up, down, and all around, and it makes its fees. And with the fees that it has, it's able to go purchase more hex, make HSIs, dump them into the auction, feeding the auction, where us, people that are speculators and investors, have an option to go in there and burn our circulating supply. And it'll feed for us to go burn our supply, not its, but ours instead.
I've never really thought about it, but I would think no, like because it's just like I don't know.
You'll have to think of. I came up with this yesterday, like a couple hours. So, and I'm not saying
off the top of my head, it just seems that it would be like giving people yield without having to do anything.
But it would be burning people's supply. Like that's the most part. Like when the SA goes and burns its supply, yeah, we get yield. But it doesn't mean dick to anybody really, because that shit wasn't going to get sold anyway. It might be used as liquidity, but it ain't getting sold on market, like actually causing red candles or something dangerous like that. But we can, as ones who actually hold the circulating supply, and if it can incentivize us to give up our Hedron and burn it, causing for more yield to happen and giving them an incentive to do such things by buying these HSIs in the first place and giving us the opportunity to make decisions on when we want to use it as an arbitrage thing or speculate with it longer and not use the buyback function or whatever. Still, the end result would be the same. More and more and more Hedron would be burned, and the circulating supply that is the danger to the red candles or green or happening in the first place is now alleviating sell pressure. Just like God Whale can do that, right? Like, fuck, I'm sure the God Whale has more than enough to just go in there and doesn't even care if it went to the premium cost and buy every single HSI that's in there. I mean, obviously, he couldn't really do that. I don't think that's possible for one person to really be able to do, but the amount of assets that that particular individual has, then they would be more than available to actually do it if it was possible. Or at any moment in time, just go make particular HSIs and start dumping it in there so everyone else besides them actually burns their supply. And then God Whale can just provide liquidity and do all sorts of stuff. But I haven't really seen God Whale like do that type of stuff, right? I talked to Crypto Sloth yesterday, and him and I agree that we'd have to see more data that someone like God Whale is even capable of doing something like that or being smart enough to do something like that. Whoever that is.
Like remember, like God Whale makes the least. He's like the person with the most gains and the least transactions in the ecosystem. Like he interacts, like he makes the minimal amount of trades, he makes the minimal amount of actions, and makes the most money. So really, it's like he's at that level where it's just like, do I really need to do all this extracurricular shit? It's a great ecosystem. Like everything's mooning in their markets, or going sideways, and so. It's not really like this is what devastation looks like. Apparently, like we're in the worst. like bear market ever, and we're just going sideways on Hex and going up on Hedron. It's just like, you really need to do anything, you know, you like rack your brains and you've got all this money, you know, it's just like, yeah.
I would say that we're not currently going sideways on Hex right now.
Oh, what, pump?
Fuck yeah. It went from 3 cents to 4.5 cents in a couple of days.
Oh yeah, you did tell me last time. Shit. Let me look at the. I'm looking at the Hex chart for over a minute. Oh shit.
Oh shit. Yeah. No shit. So so as the hex price continues to go up, that means more Hedron's going to be regardless, because the premium cost of the hex locked up into the HSIs is actually more money, more Hedron that needs to be spent just to get to the premium in the first place. So no need for Hedron price to go down to cause for more of it to be burned. You can just increase the price of hex. And Godwill's involved in these protocols. You cannot tell me that he's not. I know that he is. And so therefore he does know how these work, and always been the one to pump the hex price. So I'm sure that he would, he or she would be very incentivized to maybe participate and do those types of things for the community that it knows and loves, obviously. And not only did the hex price pump, but the liquidity that was currently on the USDC pair moved forward with it, like it should have, to support the price. So I don't see hex being available, at least at this time, to really sustain a whole lot of lower prices. And they didn't just chunk their liquidity forward and just remove their liquidity and move it forward. They did like a 50-50 move, or a 75-25% move. They removed 25% or 50%, and then they moved that forward and kept the rest of the liquidity in the current price area. So it didn't cause high volatility next to the price. It kept supporting the prices and moved up. Pretty smart. Exactly what needed to happen. But they waited like a day. They waited like almost a whole 24 hours to make sure that the price didn't just get sold right back down into their current liquidity positions before moving it forward. And you could tell, I mean, I've been taking pictures daily and putting it into the chat, that you can see that it wasn't just like an addition of liquidity, which I think that recently, like this morning or today, was like $1 million addition to liquidity. But 2 days previous, it was a removal of liquidity that was already there and appropriated at a higher price to support it. Because you could see where the wall was and how it got cut in half and then moved forward. To assume that.
What do you think the price will be on the day of the Hedron price on the day of liquidation? Or what is it, November or something?
November 13th.
Yeah, what do you think the price will be on that day?
As far as what liquidity suggests right now, the same price it currently is.
You think? What's the liquidity? Let me look at the
liquidity isn't supporting higher prices for Hedron right now. You'd have to have some confidence for the price to go up and not get sold back into the thickness of liquidity like what's currently been happening. If price went up and it stayed there for 24 hours and it incentivized for the market makers to move their liquidity forward to support that new higher price, then I would say that we would have an opportunity to have a higher price. But right now, what we've seen is not that, right? The price goes up and somebody comes along and sells it back down into the highest part of the liquidity ranges again. And there is no opportunity for the liquidity providers to move their assets forward to support that price, because it happens too damn quickly. Like I said, Hex liquidity providers waited at least another 24 hours to watch the price and see if it just hangs out up there or not, to see. They pretty much gave somebody the opportunity to sell it back down into it, so they didn't have to spend gas charges to move their liquidity around or take any extra added money to move liquidity around. But after 24 hours, the price stayed there. They moved liquidity forward. Hedron needs to have that happen. But as far as what I'm seeing right now, it's there's not enough time. The more time that the price can hang out at that higher level, in my opinion, gives the liquidity providers an opportunity to actually move it in the first place. But it also gives them confidence that it's okay for them to move it. It isn't going to, you're not going to have people come later and try to sell out through the bottom of your liquidity that you just moved into the low side of volatility. Yeah, I keep reloading the page on Hedron USDC, and it just keeps hanging out. It's not really moving. It's been like that for days. But Hex liquidity has been charging forwards, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, as it moves. And you and I both know how dangerous it is to, when the price moves, to quickly move your liquidity on top of the price too soon. You and I watched the videos and all the other stuff where it seemed like Richard Hart was talking to you and me specifically. Remember? Don't do that. Don't move to the price. You're going to get liquidated on the low end. If you do this or that, you're going to get liquidated on the high end. You guys need to give it some time. Make sure you know what you're fucking doing. Don't slam your liquidity directly on the price. All those types of things. That's how market makers move. They need confidence. Traders don't care about that shit. Speculators who lost faith or whatever the hell it is, or saw a value that they can, extract value at that time, they don't know about any of that stuff. They don't care about any of that stuff. Liquidity providers do, and they have to. As soon as I see liquidity, okay, so we got so many pairs that are connected to Hex and Hedron that with the movements of these other prices, it could drag Hedron's price up with little volume needed to be able to do that. If that's the case, and we see that the price hangs out and we have less downside momentum, then I would see liquidity providers moving their liquidity up on these pairs to help support that price. I don't know. Like I said, I keep reloading and updating the pages as much as I possibly can to see if there's any minute changes that I can understand that somebody's doing something other than just tracking the blockchain and seeing what everybody's doing. I'm just doing it visually as easy as I can, as quickly as I can. So, because I'm rather be lazy about it. It's like a snapshot right before you hit the reload button. It has the old liquidity on there. And then when it reloads the page, you can clearly see that it's different, right? What the difference is will tell you a lot. Well, it'll tell me a lot, and probably someone like you, but you don't pay attention to this shit like you used to anymore.
Yeah, I've just been doing, I did so much crypto time. I've been doing some family time and trying to work out and just doing a bunch of stuff. But I'm starting to, last few days, I've started to open stuff back up. And I forgot where, I've literally got a document just to explain to me how much shit I got everywhere. Because I got so many instances of Chrome, and all these wallets, and all this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm going to get back into it now and just grind the winter out, winter's the best time to just put the fire on, put a TV series on or some shit, and just graft through and just have a crypto time,
Don't worry, you can continue to be lazy. I'll come in and I'll pump everybody's bags as I possibly can, and I'll be like, you know what? That's enough. You guys can do it. You guys start pumping my fucking bags, okay? I'm going to really try to stay focused as much as I possibly can, regardless of what's going on. I don't have kids. Molly lives in another house, for Christ's sakes. I don't have distractions and things like that. So, and right now I'm not working. I don't really have anything pushing me to go work right yet. Maybe in a couple months I'll get lazy enough that I don't, or bored to a point where I'll go back and start working again. But for now, I've got more than enough stuff to entertain me in this ecosystem that we're currently messing around with. And when November hits, like I'm going to make sure that I'm available to be involved with those things. Not necessarily available for you guys to come and like nitpick my brain, but at least available so I can, be there to watch everything happen. Because I think that's going to be exciting. This is like something that's never really happened before, not in this way. So I'd like to see how it all plays out for sure.
My life is just full of distractions. When is the auction bidding open for the first one? What's the date on it?
The first default will start on November 13th. That means that the end bid could possibly happen after 000 UTC on the 14th. So technically UTC time would be the 15th when they come to an end.
And it's 24 hours bidding.
Yep. That's correct. And then you get into the 5-minute bidding war if bids are coming in after 23 hours and 55 minutes. In that last 5-minute period, if bids start overbidding each other, it will extend it by that additional 5 minutes to a maximum of 5 minutes. It's not like if somebody else comes in, it's another added 5 minutes to the timer. It's a complete calculable total of only 5 minutes on the countdown. So if it goes down by 3 minutes and somebody comes out and bids, it's going to add 3 minutes back to it again to give you that 5 minutes. So it could just potentially keep going on forever, ever and ever and ever at that full minute of 5 minutes, which we saw that in testnet, where some of us literally we were literally killing ourselves by not sleeping and doing it. And also talking shit to each other because we knew there's only a few of us doing it and we were calling each other out in the live chat. So that was fun.
Hey guys, that November 13th date that the liquidations, begin, is that at like when Icosa launched, it was at like 00 whatever Zulu, which was Sunday 6 p.m. for me, but we kind of counted it as the next day. So is that like November 13th? That would be is that again Sunday evening at about 6 p.m. Mountain, or is it technically the following day?
What day did Icosa launch? What day was that?
August 15th.
Okay, so from August 15th.
Yeah, it was August 16th UTC, so it'd be the same. It's the UTC time, regardless.
That's right. Correct.
So it'd be an awkward time for you guys, like midday of the previous day.
Right. Like it'll happen at 7 o'clock in the evening for me.
7 in the evening on the 13th?
If you're central time in the United States, then yes.
Okay.
So it would be the 12th. If it was UTC 13th, it would be the 12th for you guys.
There you
at
go.
7
Okay.
or whatever in the evening.
All right, cool. Glad I asked. I'm glad I asked and didn't assume.
What's the saying? When you assume, you make an ass out of you. Not me, just you.
Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups.
What was that last one?
Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups.
Oh. You ain't get it.
To the liquidity thing, what I have noticed, like I said, Hedron needs to have price go up and then have liquidity providers move their assets forward to be able to support that price, and maybe even keep assets where they currently had them at the lower price to make sure that there's not too much volatility to the downside, but keep that volatility on the upside. So that way they can provide themselves more opportunity to have higher prices at that point in time to move more liquidity forward if that was the case and support it again. I have been seeing that happen, right? Just not in the last couple of days when Hex has been causing for all the prices to get rise. And well, I guess technically it wasn't Hex per se. It was the entire macro environment kind of took a pump, minus Bitcoin. So it was kind of like an Ethereum thing. Bitcoin pumped a little tiny bit, but Ethereum's been pumping like crazy. And so has everything else.
So I've got that it'll be, so it'll be the 14th the auction starts, not the 13th.
Right. So that's what my understanding was. Is for me,
14th UTC.
For me, it'll be the 13th at 7 o'clock in the evening is what I had assumed. For me, where I live on the planet versus UTC time.
I have a hunch that the new front end that Alex is working on will we'll be able to get a lot more clarity on when they start with that, if you will.
Yeah, I hope so. For sure. Yeah, I hope there's all sorts of data and statistics and all sorts of crazy shit.
I think there will be. He's been very quiet. And the last thing that I heard him say about that, perhaps the only thing I heard him say was, it's going to be lit. His word, lit.
Wait, no, that's wrong because it didn't launch on the 16th. It launched on the 15th. So it is the 13th UTC. Because I just went off. I just calculated from the 16th, but then I checked the actual launch date and it was the 15th. So yeah, it is the 13th UTC. My bad.
It's either that or the YouTubers that had been announcing that it was the 13th are all going to have to change their shit because.
Well, have people been announcing that?
Yeah, of course they have.
But yeah, it is the 13th UTC.
What cracks me up is some of them make it sound like that's the only day that there are auctions. Like, no, guys, that's the big day, but that's just it's going to be ongoing.
And it can take more than a day to just start those auctions. So the biggest day could be like day 3, for example, because it takes a while to get them all started, but then by day 3, everybody's starting all of them, so they're starting days 1, 2, and 3 on day 3. So it's just like it's 13th of November, then nothing ever again.
Right. Well, that could actually turn out to be good if everybody vaporizes after the first day. Then all those HSIs be up to our small little community to scrape up.
I think that's a dream that you're pushing in your own head.
That's a too much pizza last night dream.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I want to watch and see how capable we are to be able to get the default started at a reasonable time. Because, remember when we were talking about these poly executors? That's where I think that it's going to be tough for Dipcatcher to know how many of those people that he's going to need. Because let's say that it takes us as a community a while to actually get the default started. And let's say that it takes, for the first day's worth of HSIs coming in, let's say that it actually takes us a whole 24-hour period of just constantly people going in and default and default and default and default and pay all this gas just to be able to go through there and do all this and get the 24-hour countdown started. That means that those executors, by the end of the next 24-hour period, there's going to be a dump load of another 1,000 or so or 1,500 HSIs that come through, meaning that they're probably going to be a little bit more capable of being able to do that. They're going to, let's say, take another 18 hours on top of the original 24 hours where, you're going to have a constant default, meaning that for 42 hours straight, those executors will not be able to sleep. They will have to be attentive and not get paid to do this either, to make sure that they can participate in all of the auctions that are coming to fruition at the end of the 24-hour periods, minus any 5-minute additions that are added onto the bids that will extend their duration of them not being able to sleep and have to do this competition. What if it takes longer than 24 hours? What if it actually takes 48 hours just to get through the first big chunk, and then takes another 24 hours to get through the 1,500 that happen the next day, and then the hundreds that happen on the third day, and the hundreds that come in on the fourth day, and the hundreds that come in on the fifth day, and then the hundreds that come in on the sixth day, and so on and so forth as it goes. They're going to do it for 14 days. How are those executors going to survive this?
Correct. But at the same time, we're all going to be learning the system and getting better at, bidding and learning where to click and what to do and not do, so we're all going to become more efficient.
Yeah. And luckily for those executors, like I said, like Dipcatcher made proprietary software that only he has that gives them an advantage to be able to know which HSIs to look at and things like this as well. So they'll have a slight advantage against everybody else to actually do the bidding.
Mm-hmm.
So
who pays for the gas?
They do. They have a separate account that's just there to handle all that.
So like the Maximus guys, like the creators, they've just made a gas fund.
Yeah, they have a whole separate account that the executors are going to have access to be able to handle all that. So cool. Just the executors, only the executors get the login code and password to be able to have access to this software that has, it's like the bot that has all the gas loaded into the bot and all the hedron loaded into the bot to be able for them to, whenever they get overbid or wherever they want to default or whenever they want to make a bid, all they have to do is just have one button. They click on the HSI they want to do it with, they click the bid thing, they process it, it goes through, and then they move on to the next one. Pretty neat, pretty simple. And they don't deal with ones that don't follow the parameters of bidding on. So there's less HSIs for them to actually deal with. Focus on the ones that they want and have this advantage with this extra additional software. Like I said, Dipcatcher's a pretty smart dude.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it all works, right? Like, no, you don't want to have additional added contract risk, especially having like third parties involved. There's like so many things that are there. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say I hope that everything goes just as smooth as we all would like it for it to be. And that's just what it is, right? That it is perfect. Best case scenario. I'm just going to stay with that one. Best case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Have you been digging into Sloth's calculator, the one that he had in his group, but then he posted it up on his YouTube? He had it as a link on one of his YouTube videos. Have you had a chance to look at it?
What does it calculate?
Say again?
I just said, what does it calculate?
Oh. Let me pull it up. It'll do like the price ceiling for Hedron and Icosa. It has a liquidation calculator in there. let me download it real quick. It's on his channel, latest video. He's got a video that explains all the different tabs. There are like 7 of them. Hex Icosa ratio, theoretical Icosa prices. And he's got a burn, access to fair value and headroom burned during the liquidations, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
And he's got I think he has he's got an LP calculator. I really like how he built if you look at the good HSI liquidation deals tab, I like how he built this calculator, because you input current data, like general information, the headroom bid, hex price at the time, headroom price, Icosa price, t-shirt rate, all that stuff. And then you enter HSI information, the number of T-share, stake length, any launch bonus, and then he gives you three outputs, either a yes or a no. And like the one furthest to the left, you'll see in the video, is like the best. If you get a yes there, that's like a really good deal. And then the middle one is a not so good, and then the one to the right is not a great deal. And it'll actually change it from a no to a yes when it's a better deal, when it fits one of those categories, if you will. So I just downloaded it yesterday and like customized. I'm in the middle of customizing it, for my own needs right now. But you can literally download it and do that, and like make it your own calculator.
Yeah, I've got it doesn't like return true or false. It just tells me the deal. Like it tells me the percentage difference between like the hex and the hedron that's in there, and then the percentage cheaper that the bid is, the starting bid or the current bid, and the difference between the starting bid and the current bid and the percentage. Just so I can then say in my head, okay, well, it's $100, it's 50% cheaper, it's $50, blah blah blah. But another thing I just thought when you said that is what you could do is see those last. You just said you're customizing it for yourself. Those last 2 columns is saying yes if it's whatever deal. You could like have it like traffic lights, so it's like red, orange, green.
Yeah.
And like red is not such a good deal, orange better than green. And then you could also have it so it's your own parameters. Like maybe you think 50% off is an orange and 70% off is a green. And so you could have your own parameters in there. So
True.
like you said, you can make it your own, and then everyone's got their own everyone's got the access to it so they can all use it. But then everybody can also like customize it to their own specifications.
Yes.
So everyone has their own internal little advantage.
Yeah, I like that.
Lego Club.
I got a question. Maybe somebody can answer. Maybe somebody that's been keeping up with Dipcatcher. But like, how is he developing his little program for Poly without there being the updated Icosa, front end for the auctions? You know what I mean? Couldn't that break it? Like, unless he's working with Alex in the background. I mean, we're all under the assumption that maybe Alex is going to have that ready, but like, who's to say? I'm just curious. Like,
they can just interact with the blockchain directly, right? So they don't need the front end because they can just have their own front end, or they could just interact. Like they could have a bot do it on chain.
Yeah, that's probably the better way anyway, if you're going to make software. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Because I hope Alex, has that all ready. I'm sure he will, but because it is a little clunky on Hedron.pro.
Where is this calculator at? I was outside dealing with somebody at my front door. That's the crypto sloth thing that you said you can download. Where is that at? Because somebody post some shit into Icosa chat. It's already been in there.
I'll send you a link.
Thank you.
Send that to me too, Hexwood.
Yeah, thank you.
Hexwood, your mic is wrecked, bro. Can't hear you. And I want to do, before I get back to work, say hi to Nomad. I miss you.
That was very sweet.
I heard your joke before, Executioner.
My joke?
Where we are on the plane. I heard it. I know where you stand on a plane.
I stand on a plane. That'd be kind of awkward for dealing with somebody outside. It'd be too tough to do.
Is it November 13th yet? I can't wait.
Okay. I got a question. It's something I've been like struggling with, and I think I know what to do. I'm just kind of I'm hesitant without perhaps some outside like counsel. So I've got an Icosa steak and a Hedron steak that I made both of them the first day. And my Hedron steak, obviously we've been, quite a bit diluted. So it's not really producing a lot of Icosa for me. But it has produced some. I want to steak that Icosa, but in order to do that, I would need to end the steak, which means I give up that, that great T-share rate that I got on that first day. T-share rate's gone up a lot since. So I think it's going to be worth it to, make that Icosa liquid and then steak it. I'm just kind of struggling with whether or not I should do it. Anybody have any input? I mean, is it a no-brainer? Just go ahead and end that Hedron steak, or should I let it continue to ride?
I'm all about the compounding personally. I mean, like, the T-share rate changes, and when you restake, I don't see the benefit of just holding on forever. I guess I like compounding personally.
And who was that? I'm sorry.
It's Java.
Oh, Java. Okay. I appreciate that. Just needed to hear it from another man, if you will.
What is your profile suggest that would be beneficial to you? Like, does it matter to you that the share rate moved you forward, so that way when you restake your principal, you lose some point values, therefore you are getting less yield in only that respect? But when you compound it, Jesus Christ, sorry guys, but when you compound it, are you exceeding that point value, so then you really are gaining more? Those are all things that you're going to have to calculate when you come to the end of your stake at that time. And the less minimum stake length that you have, it'll probably affect you less. But for those that are like whales that have 360 days to wait, it's probably going to weigh more on them to calculably make those types of decisions.
Oh, I see. This is my Hedron steak. This is my Hedron steak, and it was a 90-day steak.
Yeah, okay. Exactly like Executioner said. It's going to affect you more the bigger it is, and obviously longer. But
really?
Also something to consider would be, do you want it locked up longer? Or do you want, like, Kismet has a good strategy, which is like always having it at the ready to be able to pull out at any time, and there's benefits to that as well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. No, I hadn't heard that about it being, if it's locked up, it's a bit of a longer. It's a bit of a disadvantage, because what I was considering is that when I do end it, I can split it up into a few different wallets to make it a 30-day stake instead of a 90. So I
don't know how much of a disadvantage it really is, because the bigger that you are, the only disadvantage is that across 90 days, the share rate probably moved a hell of a lot less than it did with 360 days. However, those with a 50-day stake only get, let's say, what is that, a 10% bonus when you end it?
Oh, 30-day?
I thought you said a 90-day.
Yeah, it's a 90 day. I think it's 5%.
Okay, 5% bonus. But the whales get a 20% bonus, which actually might make up for some of that, where they can actually use the compounding at that time. That's why I was saying that when you come to fruition of that at that time, depending on what the share rate is at that time, then you'll have to make these decisions and look over all the stuff. I mean, hell, you could even go open up another wallet that you have that doesn't have staking on it at all and go to the front end and be like, well, if I have this much, how many points do I get if I end it? Like now compared to how many points that I currently have with this bonus that I get, or however much hedron that I was able to gather and gain through whatever process, or mintability within 360 days of your HSIs that you currently have, or you go win some HSIs in the auction and you're like, I want to be able to mint off of these suckers later. And then I can add and compound through that as well. There's other ways to compound all this type of yield other than just using those protocols. You could use the stakes that you currently have to mint more hedron up at that time and continue to add to your protocol as well. So there's like a lot, like I said, there's a lot of options, a lot of avenues, and sometimes you're gonna have to wait and see what the parameters have set for you on the day at the end. And I do like the thought process also that if you've gotten to past the minimum stake length and you don't end it, then really you're kind of holding liquid that's earning yield. It's a liquid yield pool that you can end at any time, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of incentivizing to have that and keep your original share rate. So think about this. Let's say that I was the only person that didn't end my stake and kept my original share rate and wasn't so affected by people diluting me, because let's say I was a bigger player and everyone else did end their stake and recompound at a new share rate, a higher share rate, which means potentially less points. That means that without doing anything, just by not doing anything, that I actually got moved up the rung because everyone else did stuff instead.
Right.
So there's that to think about too.
Yes, except the whole time you've been building that little bag of Icosa and it's there, but then the Icosa is not doing anything for you. That's the dilemma.
Potentially. I mean, it all depends on who decides to do what with their Icosa previous to you. Maybe they've already set you up for an availability of thick liquidity and all sorts of stuff to make it more healthy. Because right now, nobody has any supply, so everything's pretty damn volatile with it, right? Like, if you connect any amount of liquidity to Hex right now, when Hex goes parabolic to the fucking moon, then you see Icosa go move up 55 cents in a day or two. Yeah. And on top of it, when Icosa moves up by 55 cents in a day or two, then the Wattses that you have, and you're like, let's say you had a B point, you spent $1,000 on it. And right now, if you did it on day one or some shit, then maybe you have like 300 or 400 Icosa that's built up into that one Wattsa right there. Like, as long as it's $1, if it's $1, then I need 700 more right now to be able to get my 1-to-1. But then the price of Icosa goes up to $1.50, and you're like, shit, I only need 300 now. Right, or less 150, I guess, at that point with that cost. So your cost basis and your mentality gets thrown into this. Now I got other things to think about and other things to do, and what do I do and how do I do it? Somebody help. Somebody help me.
Yeah, for me it's just speculating on the T-share really, and how much I think that may move up, and that's gonna change my decisions, you know what I mean?
That is a factor.
Ultimately, the share rate moving at all is going to be a lot of factors on how everybody eventually has their mentality lead them in the direction in which way they actually go. Even for the people that use the buyback function are going to have to realize whether there's an incentive to continue to keep using those types of functions when the share rate goes to a point where, you're not getting much of anything for the amount of Hex that's in it, right? Because even eventually the share rate is going to make it so difficult to mint Hex. It's going to make it very difficult to mint Hedron. It's going to be very difficult to mint more Icosa. So these are miners that, mining equipment, essentially, that increases their own difficulty on their own. So yeah, ultimately the share rate will probably be the definitive factor as to how you make your moves. And adoption and growing the community will continue to have more longevity for the availability of the time in which you have the decisions to make your moves.
Yep.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but stakers have increased by a lot in the last couple of months. Went from like 100,000 to like 300,000 in no time flat. So.
I haven't been I used to look at Hex Daily Stats every single day, and I haven't been doing that. I'm gonna have a look at it right now.
I said stakers and I was wrong. Sorry. Holders. My bad. Sorry, guys. That was wrong of me to say.
No worries.
There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, stakers are the direct availability of reducing sell pressure, and holders are the direct opposite, right? Potentially.
Right.
So yeah, Icosa has like not much sell pressure because pretty much everyone's seeing the incentives, and these auctions that are coming are causing for more incentive to be participating in the protocols in the first place. And that's where my generalized mentality on everything through this ecosystem is: the higher the participation rate, the higher the success rate.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty neat.
About how many T-shares are we seeing go to liquidations every day?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, at one time I had it nailed down. But I don't know if it's changed, and I don't remember how many it was, but it was something like, it was a lot. I want to say it was like 750 a day.
Do you have
average?
Do you have Hedron bots on as a Telegram channel? So you do monitor that to watch the 69 ED when it makes its borrow, to know that that's exactly going in for the buyback function every time 69 ED wallet does a borrow.
Well, I don't look at it a lot. I'm looking at it now though.
Yeah.
Yeah, just borrowed, minted.
Yep. Every single time that you see 0xFC ... 69 ED just borrowed however much Hedron, that was somebody that just turned in HSI into the buyback function. And it, the Telegram separates everything by day: October 26th, 25th, 24th, 23rd. So you can see like how many of them are actually implemented in, and then do all the calculations yourself if you wanted to. But then maybe there's something out there that already does all that. I'm sure somebody maybe does.
I guess what you could do is you could take the average that has been sent in the last 70 some odd days. You could take the total and divide it by 70 to figure that out. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I didn't really calculate it that far in. I've only monitored it to be making sure that there were still people that were putting in HSIs. I think there's more days where people are still participating and putting into the HSI, putting into the buyback function with their HSIs during arbitrage moments, almost every day. I think I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 days since the launch of Icosa where there was nothing that came through.
I'm surprised there was even one.
I know. But nevertheless, it still happened. Maybe there just wasn't a lot of volume. A lot of stuff wasn't happening that particular day, right? So it was just a slow day. But to have 6 of them come in one day is still pretty significant in my point of view, considering that what we've currently seen since launch of Hedron is maybe 1 or 2 of them a week, or every 2 weeks, or less than that.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think according to Dev Huey's post on Twitter, there were 67,000 liquidations up to that post. If you divide that by 70 days, that's 9, and that's T-shares. T-shares going to liquidation, so that'd be 958 T-shares on average going to liquidations per day. roughly. Which in my opinion is excellent for the system.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's pretty significant. I think that also on that same site that they have a calculation of how many T-shares are in the auction, it's been used through the buyback, I guess, versus how many T-shares there are in existence. That it's like somewhere just barely below 1% of all T-shares are involved.
He posted that yesterday on Twitter. I think it's closer to like 3 to 5%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. I'm gonna look it up. So I'm like, yeah, that is not a small deal. That is a big deal.
Yeah. I would have to agree.
Oh yeah, you're right. He says that's 0.64% of total T-shares. That's 67,000 T-shares right now going to liquidations is 0.64% of the total T-shares. That's big. It is less than 1%, but that's still huge.
Yeah, because I think, what is it, like 11 million T-shares in existence or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like 10 or 11 million or something like that. So 67,000 is not chump change.
And how many of that is the OA?
Oh, right. Yeah. So
let's just say that's 90%. Well, okay. Well, now that 0.64% is much larger.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Could you explain that? I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that.
Well, like the OA's assets aren't really like sold on market to be like a risk, right? So do you even calculate those? Does the OA even end the majority of his stakes, or does it let it bleed out? Right? Does it even come a thing like those T-shares are just kind of like locked up forever, so they're kind of insignificant in the first place. So if you just did away with all of those, what's left? What's actually in the hands of the people who are causing a risk to the rest of us potentially, right? Like you doing anything may be a risk to me, or me doing something might be a risk to you, right? As long as we're putting ourselves out of our own misery, then we're not becoming a risk to anybody, right? So who are those people that are the risk ones? The ones that aren't the OA, you figure out how many T-shares would be involved in just them, and then put it up against how many T-shares are actually locked up in the thing, and that percentage goes from 0.6 to probably a lot higher.
There you go. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Okay.
So 0.6 is actually pretty damn significant, considering, let's say, that the OA did have like 80 or 90% of all the T-shares. So what's 80% or 90% of the 10 million T-shares that's currently there, leaving maybe 2 million T-shares for everybody else, and we've got 65,000. So that's maybe 20 something percent of all actual circulating T-shares that are locked up into the auctions right now.
Bro. Yeah, that'd be a fun little calculation to do.
Yeah, maybe we can throw Dev Huey on that and be like, what if we would think of it this way?
I'll reach out to him on Twitter.
Yeah. And then watch him be like, no, I already did that. And be like, fuck.
All right, just real quick. How can I word it?
Say, like, if you were to take all the OA's T-shares out of the calculable total of T-shares, what is the percentage of T-shares locked into the buyback function versus the circulating supply that's in the hands of just the investors?
Okay, I'll try to put that into a tweet.
Yeah, put it in your own way. I know. Yeah. I just gave you 160 words in a 140 word platform.
Yeah. All right.
Isn't Dev Huey in the chat?
Oh, maybe he is. just gotta look for Daffy Duck.
Yeah, he is. I'll unmute so you guys don't hear me clickety clacking.
It's been nice chatting, guys. I'm in a jet.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Prairie. Appreciate the chat.